When I was a kid, we used to play this game. That'll do. We used to try and get the CDs to line up perfectly with the bottom of the player when it stopped. So I decided to turn that game into a snap lens. Nope. Try again. My parents were both teachers, and during the long summer holidays they would drive us down to France to go camping. Now, we live in the northeast of England, so that drive was about 6 hours down to Calais, and then another few hours once you got to Calais on the other side. So when you are a teenager and you are bored for that amount of time, you come up with games to play in the car. I was mostly reading and listening to music on my CD Walkman. So I would play this game where I would pop the lid of the Walkman and try and line up the CD perfectly with a little notch that was on the bottom of the Walkman, and I'd try and get it to stop exactly at that notch. It really passed the time back then. So I recently got this CD player in my studio, and it reminded me of that game, so I thought I would turn it into a lens on Snapchat. Hello, I'm Liam. I make chill videos about creative tech, projects, things I'm making, because those are the videos that I love to watch. If you like to watch those kinds of videos, it would be a big help to me if you hit the like and subscribe button, and then I get to make more of these. Thanks for watching. Back to what you came for. So this style of game actually has a name nowadays. They are called short loop games, and they're called that because everybody has had their attention span fried by TikTok and Instagram Reels. I think this will make a good game because the mechanics are pretty simple and it's easy to play, but it's hard to get right or get a good score. Those kind of easily repeatable games tend to do pretty well on Snapchat, so here's how we're going to make it. Let's break the project down. First, we're going to need to create some 3D models of the CD player and the CD, so we'll use Blender for that. Then we'll need to texture them and make them look nice. So for that one, we will use Substance Painter. We'll need graphics, instructions, sort of general vibe stuff to give it that Y2K look. For that, I'll probably use Photoshop and Illustrator. And then we'll need to take all of those assets that we've created into Snapchat, and we'll develop the game in Snapchat using a bit of AI to help write our code. Cool. Let's go. So first thing we're going to do is jump into Pinterest, and we are going to find some examples of some really nice CD Walkmans from back in the day. I'm a big fan of this guy here. I really like that sort of silvery look with the little window, that's cool. Mini discs. I loved mini discs, but they weren't as popular and not enough people used them, I don't think. So I think the sort of CD Walkman in this silvery style, although that's pretty sick. Sony really did have like the best design at the time. I also really like this style of screen, and it used to incorporate the buttons to control the CD player, like skip, play, pause, that sort of thing. So I think we'll try and include that in our 3D model as well. I'm just going to show you the start of making this CD player process, and then I will probably end up skipping to the end, just so I can concentrate and I can do it a bit faster. So let's get rid of all these, and we're going to start with a circle mesh because that is CD player shaped. Zoom in a bit. Let's come down here to the options. Let's give it 64. Still kind of want it to look a bit janky, and then fill that in. Perfect. So we're going to go E for extrude, then probably 0.1. Yeah, sure. And then E for extrude, and then minus 0.1. The thick boy, but they were back then. And then we'll take these edges and we'll hit Command B for bevel. So 0.075 better. And then what we'll do is, if you roll the mouse wheel up, you get a nice sort of rounded, softer curve. So we'll use that, bring it down over there a bit. And there we have, there we've got a nice CD player shape to start with. But what we want to do is we're going to split this into two things. So we'll go edge, mark seam, and then go to faces, L to select linked. then P to separate by selection, and now we have two pieces. So this one is the base, let's call it base, and this one is the lid, so let's call it lid. Go to base first, select that ring, and then fill that, and then let's come up to the lid. Right, so we want this lid to be able to rotate upwards like CD player, so we're going to move our 3D cursor along the y-axis to 1. Right, because that's where we want it to rotate from. Then we'll select our lid, and then we will set origin to 3D cursor, so then if we go press R for rotate, and then X for the axis we want it to rotate on, and now opens. Sort of like an oyster. Okay, so that's great. I am going to skip ahead now to doing this CD player. Yeah, because we need to add buttons on here, then we need to add the central bit here, maybe a little window so we can see the CD spinning, and then the CD itself will go in here, and then we will have our 3D model. Right, okay, so we are back, and this is the CD player that we have, all split into its various parts. You can see we've done the top buttons, got a little screen, a little window, and the bit that's a bit like the CD player that we found on Pinterest. So as you can see, when we open up the lid, we've also got the central bit that's going to spin around. We've got our main CD, we've got the black bit here that would hold the laser, because these things used to have live lasers in them, and then we've even got the little clicky bits that the CD gripped onto. So yeah, there we have it. That is a 3D model CD player. If you want to see what the mesh looks like, not my best work, definitely some of my fastest work. It'll all work fine for what we need it to do. Right, on to the next bit. Right, so we need to give this model a bit more character, so we're going to paint it in Adobe Substance Painter, but before we do that we're going to hop on over to Adobe Illustrator and make a few graphics for the model. I really like the old Sony graphics, and I want that kind of blobby sort of Walkman logo look. And weirdly, just a quick note, but the reason that a lot of this tech from this era looks the way it does was because of the invention of a new industrial process called NURBS. That allowed designers to make mathematically precise curves for the first time that could then be easily manufactured, so they went absolutely wild, especially the guys at Oakley. Anyway, back to this. I'm just going to have the word music as my logo, so hopefully it will give the younger generation clues as to what CDs were actually used for. Here we're using a process called offset path, which allows us to get that sort of like blobby Y2K look. Okay, so you're looking at the model in Substance 3D Painter. As you can see, I have placed our logo in at the top there. What I've done is I've just debossed it into the material. So if you look on this side, you'll see that it's only in the normal. So if I take that layer off, it disappears. Same with these button graphics. So as you can see, these are like really small and they look kind of janky here, but when we bring them into Lens Studio, the anti-aliasing in that will smooth a lot of these out. So this is all pretty much done. We'll probably do our CD material in Lens Studio, I think, just because we'll be able to get some nice looking blend modes. But yeah, we haven't done a lot to it in here. We've just sorted out the silver, sorted out the black, gave it a bit of a nicer look, and then added these little graphics into it. So not loads, but enough to make it look a bit nicer. Now we are in Lens Studio. Right, so we're in Lens Studio now. We are going to import the model that we have just made. So we'll come down to the asset browser, hit here, import asset. Where is it? CD player. Let's get that imported. Accept, accept, accept. Right. We'll have to make some adjustments to this. So we are going to jump in here and then type head, and we get head binding, which has now appeared here. And we're going to drag our CD player up into the head binding, and it is absolutely massive. So we'll come over to the inspector, hit scale, and then change this to 25, and now it looks like a UFO. So we will rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis. Beautiful. Right, so first thing you'll see here is my head poking through it. We don't want that, so we are going to click on the face occluder. So if we look here, this is the face occluder. It cuts through your model to sort of cut you out of whatever it is, but we don't need that for this. So we're going to go ahead and delete this. We'll turn this back on, and there you can see it's now attached to my head. It's still too big, so we'll take it down to 15, move it up a bit. Yeah, perfect. That's our CD player imported. You will see that the materials that we baked, we're going to have to bring those in separately, but I'll do that in a bit. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to add a scene object, an empty object, drag this up to the top, and this is going to be where we change the name to interactions. This will have all of our scripts and everything in. We'll create another one under here, and we'll call this tap to open, and we'll add another scene object. It's good to keep this all organized, so when we go to tap to open, we know what's in here. So in this one, we will add a behavior script, and then touch event, touch target. So for this one, in our CD player, we're gonna tap the lid. So that's this bit here. So in object, we'll choose it this way. There we go. Lid, circle 1, response type, run tween. Now, we don't have our tweens in yet, so we will go up to scene hierarchy, search for tween, and this is going to really mess up what you're looking at, because it brings in examples of all the different kinds of tweens, but we don't need that. So we'll come up to tween manager, tween examples, delete those off. We'll also delete the tween examples from the orthographic camera. We'll leave the orthographic camera because we will need that in a bit. Come back up to here, and we'll say tap lid, run tween, target object, and again we'll find our lid, and then this can be tap open, come down to lid, and what we're going to do is we're going to add our tween transform. As you can see, it's already transformed, so not super helpful. Tap open, play automatically, no, rotate, and we're going to rotate along the x-axis. So start input will be 0, end input will be 90, open. Okay, so it needs to be minus 90, not 90. So change that to minus 90, and then tap open, and it opens. Perfect. Right, so when we tap the lid, it opens, but then we can't close it again, and if we keep tapping the lid, it just keeps opening. So we need to basically duplicate this and make it tap close instead. So we'll copy this and we'll paste it, and then the touch target for tap close is going to be the CD. So let's pick one of the CD meshes, and then we'll change this to tap close, and then we'll come down to the lid again, and we'll duplicate this tween, change this to tap close, and this is going to go from minus 90 to 0. So now if we tap the lid, it opens, and if we tap the CD, it closes again. Perfect. So that's the functionality we're after. Tap open, tap close, tap open, tap close. Now there are lots more things to go into this lens. There's going to be, when we tap it open, we're going to send a custom trigger, and that trigger will talk to our game management, and that will tell it to stop the CD spinning. We're going to have the CD spinning when it closes again. So when we tap the CD, it should start that spinning again. We'll add in lots of other fun things. So this is going to take quite a bit of development now. So I'm going to fast forward to the final file so you can have a look and see what that all looks like. And I will walk you through how we built the logic of our actual game. Okay, I can hear the CD, so I'm just going to turn the sound off. Right, so as you can see, this is the final file. A lot has changed from what I just showed you with the tap to open and then the tap to close. Let's walk through as much of this as I possibly can. To walk you through everything, the way I have split up this project in the scene hierarchy, you have the scene controller. Now this handles all of the, let me just open this, see me a bit better. So the scene controller, this handles all of the game management, the tweens and everything that I showed you before. So you got your interaction, your controllers, your tweens. I also have CD movement. So this is a script that I made with AI, and what it does is it takes the movement of the head, smooths it out a bit so it's not flying all over the place and you can still see the game. It clamps the movement, clamps the rotation, and it has a smoothing factor. It allows rotation along these different axes. I've used this script in quite a lot of games that I've made, so it's been developed over quite a long period of time. So that's that. CD reflection rotation. So what this does is it takes the movement of the head and you'll see the reflection, the light reflection on the CD. It turns that slightly because when you turn a CD IRL, that spins around and it's a big part of like how a CD looks, and it gives it that bit of realism that I really like. So that's that. CD spinner. Now this is a script that receives triggers to start and stop the CD, and handles like how fast it spins and stuff like that, and how long it takes to slow down and stop. So you can see it could spin it on all sorts of different axes, and all it's actually doing is spinning the graphic, not the CD. So if we turn that off, it looks like the CD is spinning, but it's actually just spinning that graphic around, and that's all we really needed for this. We didn't need the whole 3D object to spin around. Then we've got Game Scorer. So what this does is it translates the angle between this arrow at the bottom and this arrow here, and takes it and translates it into a score you see on the bottom. Now this script you can obviously configure. This is the way that I build my script. I have all of these different inputs. So if we go into this, where is Game Scorer? So let's pull this out. When you're developing one of these custom scripts, what I do is I put in all of these different inputs for things that I can fine tune just in the editor. It makes it easier for me to use as somebody developing it, so I can make it feel better as a game as a whole. So I like to be able to fiddle around with all this without going into the script every single time. So you can expose all of these different variables in the inputs. And then we'll come up, yep, CD open close, tap, and then that's the other tap, but I didn't rename it. And then the tweens, this is just everything that moves or changes, because we use tweens to inform that the tweens are what controls the movement a lot of the time. The Game Scorer as well, it just handles the whole game. So when we tap to open, it sends a trigger called spin stop. Now spin stop talks to the Game Scorer and tells it to stop the game and find out what the score is after a certain amount of time. So in this case 3.5 seconds is how long it takes for the lid to open, the CD to stop spinning, and then it will take a score, and then that score goes to here. We have the CD player still in that side, and then under the orthographic camera we've got, let's get rid of the script, Under the orthographic camera we've got things like background, so if I turn this off you can now see me. But what we've done is we've taken an image plane as well, and that takes the camera feed and translates it just into the area that would sit on top of the CD, so we can get that nice reflection and people can see themselves as they use the game. And then one of the last things I did was add in different sounds. So I don't know if I'll be able to get a high score, but we'll give it a try, and we should hear like a winning sound if I get close enough. Stand by. That is a bit obnoxious, but it was like the most Y2K music that I could find for free on a free audio site, so it is what it is. One of the other things I should probably show quickly is the render order. So the render order, often if you'll find that one thing is sitting in front of another thing, it's usually to do with the render order. So if you come into scene down at the bottom, we want all of the 3D camera objects to be on top of the orthographic camera, so we need to move the orthographic camera to 0, so that renders first, and then all of the 3D objects render on plane 1, which is on top of that, which is why we can now see our CD player. So yeah, that is our completed effect, we would go up to publish, and then we would add in our preview video and our icon. This is the size of the lens, so it uses 5.5 meg of 8, which is pretty good. I probably could have got it down further if I'd done some work optimizing the music and things like that, but 5.5 meg for the amount of textures, and because some of them I want to be quite high res so you can see them properly on a phone. And then we would obviously go down to publish and get that set online. Thank you for watching this explainer of making a Snap Lens game. If this was interesting to you, let me know. I recognise that I skipped over quite a lot of that. Just to give you some insight, I've been making lenses professionally for a few years now, so the development time for that one didn't take me very long because I'd planned it all out and I knew exactly what it was that I wanted to make. So when it came to making it, I could just go ahead and do it. I didn't really document it at the time because there was a deadline to try and get it in for 2 lens competitions. One from Lenslist, which was a character head thing, and I thought mine maybe might qualify for that because it does go on your head and it follows your head. And then the second one was a dev post hackathon that I wanted to get in under the wire of. I didn't think I would win anything. It's a pretty simple game, but it looks cool. It's one I wanted to make, and for me those are the best kind of lenses to make. I had a break in my professional work, so I had some time to do this, but I didn't have a lot of time. So hopefully I've gone through and explained what a lens like that entails and what it looks like. Yes, it's complicated. With the advent of AI to help you develop your scripts to control your game, as long as you know like the basics of firing custom triggers, how to reset a game, how to restart it, you can put all of that into AI. I made a custom GPT that works really well with Lens Studio, so all of that time gets a bit shortened if you use that one. With the help of AI, doing all of the complex scripting, developing the core of the game, getting it all polished and stuff, not including optimizing it. That probably took me about 3/4 of a day. The modeling and stuff I did in other days. So all in under 2 days from start to finish comfortably, and if I was just focusing on that and I had the time, it would have been much faster. If you're curious about developing scripts and stuff with AI, comment below and let me know. And I may make a video on that in the future because I do a lot of it. It's very handy, but there are certain ways you need to do it. If that's something you'd like to see, comment below, let me know. If you've got this far in the video, thanks a lot for watching. Really appreciate you. And I'll hopefully catch you in the next one. See ya.